Hi, everyone, and welcome to Legally Speaking with Victor Guam. I'm Victor Guam, a legal practitioner with over 35 years of experience arguing cases at all levels of court in Nigeria. This podcast is a passion project born from my deep love for the law and the countless insights I've gathered along the way. Whether you're a lawyer, law student, or just curious about how the legal system works, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Legally Speaking with Victor Guam is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. All cases and issues discussed are based on public domain materials. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and do not represent any organization. All content, including audio, branding, and materials, is the intellectual property of Victor Guam and may not be used or reproduced without permission.
Imagine this. You think you've inherited, a really cherished family property. But then someone else pops up saying, hang on, I bought that directly from your dad years ago. It's instantly a conflict, right? Rooted in family history, trust, maybe some fuzzy memories or missing paperwork. How do you even begin to sort out who owns what?
It happens more often than you think.
Well, today we're diving deep into exactly that kind of messy situation. We're heading to the Lagos High Court for a really fascinating judgment. It's Atiko v. Adewale, decided back on September 28, 2023.
Right.
And this isn't just some dry legal text. Honestly, it reads like a story. It's about family, property, and, well, what happens when agreements made long ago become unclear or maybe even forgotten over time.
Absolutely. And our mission today really is to kind of cut through the legal complexity. We want to unpack the core fight, look at the evidence both sides brought to the table, and critically see how the court navigated this tangled web of claims to actually reach a decision.
So you'll get the crucial insights without getting totally lost in the legal weeds.
Exactly. No jargon, just the story and the outcome.
Okay, let's set the scene then. Who are the main players here? On one side, you've got the claimants, Mr. Ojota Ogudu Atiko and Mr. Taiwo Atiko. They're representing the family, the estate, of their late father, Aziz Ajibeda Atiko. And they went to court, basically saying, look, this specific piece of land, it's Plot 28, Block 5 in the Ojota Ogudu Residential Scheme, it even had a certificate of occupancy from 1983. This land belongs to our dad.
Okay, straightforward claim.
It seems like it. Their argument was pretty direct. They said the defendant, Chief Boladale Adewale, was initially acting as their father's attorney for this very land.
Like a legal representative.
Yeah, handling things for him. But they claimed, after their father passed away, Chief Adewale apparently sold the land, or they alleged he did, with absolutely no record, no accounting back to the family. So him being on the property now, totally wrong. In their view.
Okay.
And they weren't messing around. They wanted the land back, naturally, a court declaration saying it was theirs, and get this 100 million naira in damages for trespass.
Wow, that's a significant sum. But as you hinted, there's another side to this story.
Always is, isn't there?
Usually. So Chief Boladale Adewale, the defendant, he presented a completely different picture. He said, no, the late father, Aziz Ajibade Atiko himself, sold his interest in this land directly to me.
Directly. Not through some attorney role.
That's what he claimed. Said it happened in 2 installments. And after he'd paid in full, the deceased apparently handed over the original certificate of occupancy, the C of O, and put him, Chief Adewale, in peaceful possession.
Handed over the original document. That sounds significant.
It really is. And what's more, Chief Adewale claimed he even built structures on the land while the father was still alive, and the family never raised any objections, never said a word.
Okay, so he's saying this wasn't some secret deal done after the father's death.
Exactly. He's painting a picture of an open transaction that happened years prior. And he wasn't just defending either. He filed a counterclaim.
Oh, what did he want?
He wanted the court to declare him the rightful, equitable owner, basically asking the court to say, look, based on the sale and the payment, he's the true owner, even if the paperwork isn't perfectly updated yet.
Right, equitable ownership.
And he wanted an order forcing the Atiko family to sign all the necessary transfer documents, plus N5 million from them to cover his lawyer's fees.
So a classic he said, she said, or he said, they said situation.
Pretty much. But in court, you need more than just words. You need proof.
Right. And this all took a while to get to court, didn't it? You mentioned the judgment was 2023, but when did this actually start?
Good point. The suit itself was filed way back in 2015. The actual trial, though, didn't kick off until March 2023. It just shows you how long these property disputes can sometimes take to resolve through the system.
Years. So the court heard from both sides, witnesses, documents. What was the core testimony?
Well, the Atiko family's main witness was Mr. Miratala Atiko, one of the sons, one of the claimants. He stuck to their story.
Yes, his father appointed the defendant as an attorney for the land initially.
But he insisted, after his father died, there was just no official record of any sale. The land registry still showed his father as the owner, therefore Chief Adewale being there. Wrongful possession.
That seems logical on the surface if the title deed is still in your father's name.
It does. But then came the cross-examination, and this is often where, things can really shift in a trial.
The turning point.
Potentially, yes, because under cross-examination, the family's own witness, Mr. Miratala Atiko, admitted something pretty huge.
What was that?
He admitted that his father hadn't just given the defendant a power of attorney. He confirmed his father also handed over the original certificate of occupancy to Chief Adewale.
The original C of O, he admitted that.
He did, and crucially, he admitted it was for the purpose of putting Chief Adewale in possession.
Wow, that really seems to undercut their whole argument that the possession was wrongful, doesn't it?
It's a major contradiction. You can't really argue someone's possession is totally baseless if your side admits your father gave them the key ownership document and put them there.
Okay, that admission definitely changes the landscape. So what did the defendant, Chief Adewale, say when he testified?
He basically reiterated his story. The deceased father sold him the land, he paid in full, the father gave him possession, and he backed it up with documents.
What kind of documents?
Several key ones. An irrevocable power of attorney from the deceased dated July 7, 1988.
Irrevocable, that word seems important.
Very. We'll come back to why. He also produced an original land purchase receipt from July 1987 showing an initial payment of N50,000.
A receipt from 87.
Okay. An original deed of transfer dated July 1991. And various government payment receipts related to the land over the years, things like ground rent, tenement rates, that sort of thing.
So a paper trail suggesting a transaction and ongoing possession.
Exactly. And he didn't stop there. He brought in another witness, a lawyer, Mr. George Inna.
Who was he?
He worked at the law firm that apparently handled the original transaction, way back when.
Okay, so someone involved at the time.
Right. And Mr. Inna testified that he personally conducted a search on the property back then, verified its status, confirmed the payments were made, and confirmed the execution of that irrevocable power of attorney.
So independent verification, essentially.
And he was quite blunt. He described the claimant's case as, and I quote, frivolous, speculative, and a sham.
Strong words from a legal professional.
Very strong. And there was another interesting bit of evidence actually introduced by the claimants themselves.
Really? What was that?
It was Exhibit C5, a document titled Resolution of the Meeting of the Children of the Deceased.
Okay, notes from a family meeting.
Seems like it. And the court noted that this document showed the family knew about the relationship between their father and Chief Adewale. It even hinted they might have known about the sale way back in 1995.
Since 1995.
That's what the court inferred. Perhaps their uncertainty wasn't whether a sale happened, but whether it was properly registered or finalized legally. It just adds another layer, suggesting maybe this wasn't a complete surprise years later.
Right, it suggests they knew something was going on, even if the details are fuzzy.
Precisely. So the court is looking at all this, the C of O and the father's name, the claimant's admission about handing over the C of O, the defendant's documents, the witness testimonies, the long possession. It's a lot to untangle.
Definitely. So how did the court approach it? What were the key legal questions they had to answer?
The defense lawyer laid out 5 key issues, which really framed the court's decision-making process. First, locus standi. Did the Atiko family even have the legal right, the standing, to bring this case?
Okay, can they even be in court on this?
Second, statute barred. Was the lawsuit filed too late? Was it blocked by the statute of limitations?
The time limit issue.
Third, the power of attorney. Did the father's death in 2006 automatically cancel that irrevocable power of attorney from 1988?
That's a critical one.
Fourth, land purchase transfer. Did the defendant's receipts, the unregistered deed, and his long possession actually give him equitable ownership, even without perfect registration?
What the documents and actions meant legally.
And fifth, the counterclaim. Did Chief Adewale prove his case against the Atiko family? Did he earn the declarations and orders he was seeking?
Okay, those are the big hurdles. So let's walk through the court's decisions. What about locus standi? Did the family have the right to sue?
Yes, on that one, the court agreed with the claimants. They were the children of the deceased. Exhibit C5 confirmed the land was family land. So they cleared that initial hurdle. They had the right to be there.
Okay, step 1 cleared. But the main event was ownership, right? Who had the better title?
Exactly. This was the core issue. The claimants really only had Exhibit C1, the C of O, still in their father's name.
Which seems strong on the face of it.
It does, but the court weighed it against everything else.
Right.
They noted, first, the claimants knew about the relationship between their dad and the defendant. Second, the huge admission by their own witness that the father gave the defendant all the title documents, including the original C of O, and put him in possession.
That admission again.
It kept coming back. And third, the timing. The claimants waited until 2014, 8 years after the father died, to really pursue this. And by the time they filed in 2015, the defendant had been living there using the land, undisputedly, for about 20 years.
20 years is a very long time to wait.
Legally, yes, that carries significant weight. Now, about that power of attorney,
The irrevocable one. Did it survive the father's death?
the court said yes, it did. And this is a really key legal point because it was given for valuable consideration. Remember the payments the defendant made?
Right. The N50,000 receipt and the claim of full payment.
And because it was explicitly stated as irrevocable, the court ruled it created a proprietary interest for the defendant.
Proprietary interest.
Meaning it wasn't just permission to act. It was tied to an actual ownership right, a stake in the property itself. And because of that, it did not terminate when the father died. An irrevocable power of attorney coupled with a sale or value exchange is powerful.
Okay, so that document was still legally valid, according to the court. What about the fraud allegations?
The court addressed those directly. The claimants had accused the defendant of fraud and forgery, but remember, those are serious claims.
Need strong proof.
Exactly. And the court found they simply hadn't met that high standard. The allegations were not proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
So, dismissed for lack of evidence. And the purchase receipts the defendant showed.
The court found them, along with the other evidence of the transaction, to be valid. They concluded that these documents and actions did confer equitable ownership on the defendant. His long possession backed this up.
So, things looking good for the defendant. But what about the time limit, the statute of limitations?
Yes. This turned out to be, you could say, the final nail in the coffin for the claimant's case.
Why was it so decisive?
Well, the law in Lagos, like many places, sets a time limit for bringing actions to recover land. It's typically 12 years from when the right to sue first arises.
Okay, 12 years.
The evidence, particularly that deed of transfer Exhibit D3, showed the defendant effectively took full possession or solidified his claim in July 1995.
1995. And the lawsuit was filed.
2015.
That's 20 years later.
Exactly, well over the 12-year limit. So the court had no choice but to find that the Atiko family's claim was time-barred. It was simply too late to bring the action.
Wow. So even if they had had a stronger case on the ownership facts, the delay would have stopped them.
That's precisely what the statute of limitations does. It creates a final deadline.
So, connecting all these dots, what was the final verdict? What does it all mean?
Well, the court dismissed the Atiko family's claims entirely. They failed to prove their case on the merits, and their action was statute barred.
And the defendant, Chief Adewale, his counterclaim.
He won. The court declared him the equitable owner of the land, entitled to its occupancy.
So he got the declaration he wanted.
Yes, and the court also ordered the claimants, the Atiko family, to execute the necessary documents to formally transfer the title to him.
They have to sign it over now.
And on top of that, the court awarded the defendant the N5 mils and thousand he claimed for his solicitor's fees, a comprehensive win for him.
It really was. So, stepping back from the specifics of Atiko v. Adewale, what are the broader lessons here? What can we, learn from this?
There are some really important takeaways, I think. First, the power of paperwork, but specifically the right kind of paperwork. That irrevocable power of attorney given for value, it was incredibly powerful. It created rights that lasted beyond death.
So, not just any document, but the legally precise ones matter hugely.
Absolutely. Second, timeliness is critical. That statute of limitations isn't just a technicality, it's a hard deadline. Delaying legal action, especially in land matters, can completely derail your case no matter how right you think you are.
Don't wait 20 years, basically.
Probably not advisable. Third, possession matters. Being in long-term, undisturbed possession, especially when you can show you paid for the property intended to own it, carries real weight in court. It creates a strong presumption of ownership.
Action speaking louder than maybe just a name on an old deed.
In some circumstances, yes. And finally, perhaps a softer point, but it highlights potential family dynamics. It's a reminder of how easily disputes can flare up generations later if arrangements made by parents aren't crystal clear and documented for all the heirs.
Yeah, lack of transparency or clear communication can plant the seeds for future conflict.
Definitely. Ambiguity is often the enemy here.
So there you have it, our deep dive into Atiko v. Adewale.